All right, I will say good morning. Let us begin. So we're going to start this morning in Meretz Hashem, resuming our Seder in Tzidkas Hatzaddik. So and then Meretz Hashem will start the daf at 5:55. So just a public service announcement that if you're not on the WhatsApp chat, see me after share and we'll add you to the WhatsApp chat. And because I sent out the PDF of what we're going to be doing in Meretz Hashem today, but it's kidai to invest in a set of Tzidkas Hatzaddik. I'll send out the edition that we use. You could order it online. It's a beautiful sefer and an important addition to one's library. And also, it's good to learn from a sefer rather than from, sheets or other things like that. So I'll send that information out today, but at least for today, we'll get started. So we are picking up in Meretz Hashem this morning in Os Ayin, in Tzidkas Hatzaddik. And here, the Rebbe says something truly beautiful. He says, I'm on page Kuf Samich Zayin, if you're following along on the PDF. So the Rebbe says as follows: Ba'os Davar Shebo Nimtza Chisarn Hamiyuchad Shel Kol Adam. We'll translate the words, and then we'll try to understand with a little bit more depth what the Rebbe is saying. He's saying, in that particular area of life, where you find your greatest chisaron. Chisaron represents that which you are lacking. So in that area of life where you find that which you are lacking, in that area in which you are most deficient, dafka ba'osa davar uba'osa inyan mamish va'al yada atzmo, dafka through that very thing through which you are deficient, humuchan lahagia al ma'alasa hamiyuchadas. It is in that area that you have the ability to achieve your most unique and singular accomplishment. Now, what the Rebbe is describing here, he's actually spoken about in previous Seifim, in previous pieces, in previous sections, that often we look at our struggles and our faults and the areas of deficiency as weaknesses. Now, in fact, they are, until they're dealt with, they are weaknesses, but they also represent, says the Rebbe, the greatest opportunity for growth. My deficiencies, my weaknesses, my areas in which I am deficient represent what the Rebbe says, my ma'ala amiyuchadas, my most unique ability for accomplishment. What does this mean? So first of all, if you take a quick look, he says in footnote Reish Nun Gimel, he says, Ra'a mashakasa Rabbeinu La'el, mishi yeshlo teshuka gidola, mishi yeshlo teshuka gidola, letavas haguf, al yisatzev baze. He gives an example that if someone has incredible taivas, incredible desires, so a person might take a look at their desires and they say, oh, what a lowly individual I am. Look at these things I want. Look at these things that I desire. So the Rebbe says something amazing. He says, Kiad Rabba, hu kli muchan letokef avos uteshuka derishas ha'emes. So we'll say, for example, he actually quotes over here, there's a little bit of good chazara, the Gemara in Meseches Sukkah, where the Gemara quotes this. Remember again that Abaye one time overheard a man and a woman having a conversation in an inn. Right? You remember again the story that they said, oh, let's travel with each other tomorrow. So Abaye said, you know what? I'm going to follow them because there's no doubt that they're going to sin. And Abaye felt, I'll be the chaperone. They're not going to know I'm the chaperone. I'll be the chaperone. I'll follow them. And this way, when they're ready to commit an Aveira, I'll be there to stop them from sinning. You remember the Maisa? He follows them. They get to the crossroads. And they say, oh, how nice it's been to travel together. But, alas, you have to go this way. I have to go that way. Hatzlacha Rabba. Hatzlacha Rabba. Have a good journey. And Abaye was so upset. Abaye said, wow. He said, if I was in that situation and I had the opportunity to sin and no one was around, I don't think I could have resisted temptation. So here the irony of the story was that Abaye was following the couple because he thought that he was going to be the shomer, right? He thought he was going to be the chaperone. He was going to be the one to prevent something from occurring. And meanwhile, he sees that these people were to a certain degree even greater than he was. They resisted a temptation that he thought he could not have resisted. So the Gemara says, Hahu Saba, there was an old man who appeared to Abaye. Now, of course, whenever mysterious old men appear in the Gemara, usually it's Eliyahu Hanavi, and Eliyahu Hanavi told Abaye, and Abaye was very dejected. He was very dejected because he thought that what is highlighted was such a fundamental deficiency in who and what he was. But the Saba, the old man, appears to Abaye, and he says to Abaye, don't be upset. He says, Al yisatse bazer lachshel kimo pogum shutshuga ki adraba hu kli muchan letokef avas u'teshukas rishas ha'emes. He goes on, he says, I'll tell you the rest of it outside. Essentially, he says to Abaye, the greater the tzaddik, the greater the Yetzer Hara. Right? The more, see, interestingly enough, in the world of spirituality, the greatest anomaly is that in general, the more proficient you become in something, the easier it becomes, right? The person wants to hone a skill, right? I want to be a good basketball player. The more I play, the more I practice, the better I become. I want to become better in my profession, right? The more I learn and the more time I spend in it, the better I become. The one area of life where this formula doesn't work is when it comes to one's ruchnius. That the more I do it and the more time I put into it, sometimes the greater the challenge becomes. Because as I grow, my Yetzer Hara grows along with me. What Reb Tzaddik is pointing out over here is something very interesting. That the Saba, Eliyahu Hanavi, was not simply comforting Abaye by telling him, don't worry, because you're a greater tzaddik, ultimately what? You have a greater Yetzer Hara. He was comforting Abaye in a different way as well. He was telling Abaye that at the end of the day, the fact that you have this Yetzer Hara, the fact that you have these taivas, that's not a weakness. That's a strength. That's a strength. It's just a shayla of how you choose to channel it. Sometimes, says the Rebbe, and this is what he's saying, Hachisaron hamiyuchad shal adam, that which is our greatest deficiency, that which is our Achilles heel, actually, if channeled the right way, can become your greatest strength. Sa'abaye, you're upset, you're dejected, because you say to yourself, oh, if I was alone with this woman, I would have committed an Aveira with her, right? I could not have resisted the temptation. What does that say, Abaye? That you have great desire. That you have great desire. So you're dejected because you think that you would have channeled that desire in the wrong direction to sin. But Abaye, that same desire, if harnessed and channeled in the right way, could accomplish incredible things. And that is what Reb Tzaddik is saying. Look once again at the Lashon in Ayin. And the boss has sent out today the link to buy this Sefarim because it's so important. First of all, to have your own Tzidkas Hatzaddik is such a schos. So just look at those words again. Ba'oso davar shabonim tzabah chisaron hamiyuchad shel kol adam. In that particular area where you find the chisaron, in that particular area where you are deficient, dafka, ba'oso davar u'ba'oso inyan mamish. It's dafka in that thing, in that deficiency, in that struggle, hu muchan lahagia al ma'alaso hamiyuchades. You see, we'll say often, what Reb Tzaddik is saying, we'll have to stop for this. Reb Tzaddik is saying is, in life, we think that there are like two buckets. There are my strengths and there are my weaknesses, right? The strengths are the things I want to build on. The weaknesses are the things I have to leverage against. And Reb Tzaddik says it's not true. There's only one bucket. And what's the one bucket? Strengths. There are two kinds of strengths. There are strengths that you know about and strengths that you don't know about. And then there are actually three parts. Strengths you know about, strengths you don't know about, and then weaknesses. And what are weaknesses? Weaknesses are just strengths that have to be converted and channeled in the right way. And says Reb Tzaddik, not only that, but sometimes the greatest strengths that we cultivate in life is when we're able to harness and turn around those very weaknesses. We'll also have to stop over here. Again, Emirat Hashem, over the next 2 days, we'll spend 2 more days on this os, but over the next 2 days, Emirat Hashem, we'll see some examples of this, which will make this concept. At least today, hopefully, we establish the conceptual or intellectual framework, and Emirat Hashem, tomorrow, we'll begin to plug in the Metziastic examples. Shkayach, everyone.